Welcome to Christian Truth in our series, God's Medicine. Today we're going to be going over the shocking symptomology of GDMF. What is GDMF? GDMF is a term that I coined called Genetic Disorders of Methylation Function. Basically, it's where you can't break down certain nutrients in your foods. Now, when you can't break down your nutrients, two things happen. One is that you don't get the benefit of that nutrient, leading to deficiencies. And second, that unbroken down nutrient can accumulate in the body and now becomes a toxin. So this can cause a wide variety of problems and issues, some of which I'll go over with you right now. One of those things is endocrine issues. You'll have hormonal issues. When you have absorption issues, you're going to have deficiencies. And many of those deficiencies will go undetected because they can fluctuate. So you may have too much of them in the blood at one moment and the next minute you lose it all. So those can fluctuate wildly. Then, you can have toxicity issues, as mentioned before, which can cause problems in the liver, the kidneys, the bladder, the digestive system, can even cause some things like anxiety, depression. Deficiencies also can cause those kinds of symptoms, as well as adrenal and other hormonal or endocrine systems. So toxicity or deficiency can cause issues with, your liver, your kidneys, your adrenals, your hormones, your endocrine system. And then these adrenal issues can actually lead to a propensity towards drugs and alcohol. Because when the adrenals go down, believe it or not, one of the things it's obvious that stimulants would stimulate it, but also alcohol does stimulate the adrenals. So if you've ever seen a person that drinks alcohol and they all of a sudden appear like they're on speed or something, instead of it being a depressant to them, it wakes them up and they chatter all night long or run around or whatever, have tons of energy. That's somebody whose adrenals are really being pumped up by that alcohol. Then there's issues of mystery illnesses, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autism, lupus. And then you have the regular diseases, besides those and the ones that your doctor can't or doesn't diagnose. Then you have, regular diseases, diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, kind of things like that. So for me, all of my life, I watched these very nice, caring, humble, generous people in my family spontaneously turn into vicious, mean, vindictive, hateful, and even violent people. And I spent my whole life trying to figure out what I was looking at. I watched my family members die young, and I fought to keep myself alive while, losing consciousness for days on end, days, weeks, and even months. So when I was in my 30s, I couldn't even tell you my name, my address, or my phone number. And I knew I was dying, but no doctors had any answers for me. I did have one tell me I was dying, but he didn't know why, and all the others kind of just acted like I was crazy. But using God's natural medicines, what are called alternative medicines, I was able to reach a point in health where I could go on and start a business in nutritional supplements, and had a very good career in that, made millions of dollars and had a great career. So even if you know somebody that's at the point that, they don't even know their name, they can't tell you their phone number at times, they lose memory, they are sick all the time, they can't get out of bed. I was bedridden at that time. Even if you know somebody that's in that bad of shape, doesn't mean there's no hope for them. So one of the things that can happen for people that experience GDMF is that they can get off a balance on their diet without even knowing it. And then they go off into these like drama cycles, often using drugs, but sometimes not even on drugs. They just like go into these rages and they upset the whole family for days and days on end, and sometimes even requiring police or emergency services intervention. And then at some point, usually like several days in or something, they snap out of it and they're just fine, like nothing ever happened. Then, of course, the family's like really angry and upset because the person that caused all the drama walks in like nothing ever happened. And the reason that he does this is that he doesn't have any idea any of this is taking place. He's been blacked out the whole time, and he has no idea what he did or why. And so he certainly doesn't understand why the family is reacting to him the way he is. So it can cause a lot of confusion, a lot of upset in the family, and a lot of anger. And just like I go unconscious and I'm too sick to even think about using drugs, me and the other members of the family are, all the addicted members, we're actually suffering from the same disease. It's just manifesting in two different ways. I inappropriately call the two groups the sickies and the addicts. Although there's some crossover in the two groups, they will manifest primarily in one or the other of the groups. The sickies are generally too sick to do drugs, and the addicts are generally well enough to find drugs and act out. So what I discovered is, just like no amount of shaming me or calling me names or kicking me or degrading me will get me out of bed when I go unconscious, I have to understand the same to be true of the addicts in my family. They have no more control over this than I have over being in bed. By the time they, quote unquote, decide to do drugs, they're already out of balance and not in their right mind. So it's not like they made a conscious decision to do those drugs. They were already in a diminished capacity when the drugs went in, and they were just a further assault on a person that was already in a diminished capacity and toxic and sick. So I often explain it to people this way. If you imagine, I'm sure a lot of you listening to this are saying, you're describing my family, that's my family, they do that, and they act crazy, and they, come in like nothing ever happened. Yes, this is my family. Okay, well, you have to understand, and I get it, because, I've been there dealing with my family. I wanted to blame them. I wanted to shame them and blame them and make it their fault and hold them accountable and make them be responsible and all of those things. But in light of this research, it just doesn't work. It doesn't hold water and it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. Let me tell you what's happened to your family member before they ever even did that drug. They were already in a diminished capacity. So it's not like they could really make the decision to or not to do drugs. Now, I'm not saying that's the case in every single instance, okay? Please don't go crazy in the comments telling me, how many times you chose or somebody else chose to do drugs. I know choosing drugs does happen, but I'm saying people with GDMF do not have as much decision-making power as we give them credit for. And then we want to get angry at them. And I did too, until I figured out what it was I was actually looking at. And if you look at it this way, imagine you're standing there looking at your loved one. They're acting perfectly normal, happy, sane. You may even be laughing or telling jokes or just having normal conversation, whatever normal thing is going on, right? And then you watch somebody walk up and shoot them full of poison. And then they twist off, they go crazy, they act nuts, they do drugs, they do all this drama, they start acting dangerously. Now, you just watched somebody poison your loved one, and now they're acting crazy like they could hurt themselves or someone else. What is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to form a circle around them and protect them. My loved one has just been poisoned. Now I have to keep them safe until I can get them detoxed and back in their right mind. You're not going to kick them or shame them or do any of the things that I used to do. Hold them accountable. How are you going to hold somebody accountable for being poisoned? And that's exactly what we've been doing. And we've got to identify and recognize GDMF and stop letting our families be torn apart by this. Now, couple more things that I discovered and I want to share with you is that when we adjust the diet, these things are far less likely to happen. It is very hard to keep it balanced. So, we can easily fall back into the sickies, can easily end up back bedridden for a while, and the addicts can certainly twist off and go into drama cycles. It can still happen. But management right now is the only tool that we have. Now, I am trying to look into genetics and epigenetics to help myself and my family. But at this time, all that we can do is manage it with diet and make sure that we have educated family members and recovery buddies that will help us get through it. Because once you get sick, you can't really remember what to do to get well. So that's why you need a recovery buddy. And if you don't have one, I'll be your recovery buddy if you're alone, like I was when I was going through it. So I hope that information helps to understand a little bit about what's going on. And I am going to quickly go over some things that we can do about it in line with managing it, how we can find out what food is it, what nutrient is it that's sending them off. what's doing it. We have to know what's doing it. And this is why we need our genetic testing. And let me pull up for you here. Okay, when we do genetic testing, and I'm going to give you where to go to get this. When we do the genetic testing, what we're going to do is we're going to get these methylation pathways. You'll get a methylation pathway planner like this, which will show you where and how the methylation pathway breaks down. Now, I know looking at this looks a little bit intimidating. Don't worry about that. You don't need to know, because we know and we're going to help you for free. So, the important part right now to understand is that when you get this methylation pathway planner, at the top, you're going to have this part. This is your overview of your core SNPs. Your core SNPs are your SNPs. That's your genetic SNPs that are mutated or not mutated. It's going to tell you whether it's affected or not affected. Right here we see these first three: negative, 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 negative. Okay, and then we get down into MTHFR, and you can see that there's a positive, positive, and some are, MTRR is positive, negative. So this gives us what genetic mutations you're dealing with. Once we have this, we can isolate the foods that are causing the problem. And by isolating those foods, we can help you still steer clear of the problems attendant with eating nutrients that you can't break down. And sometimes it's not just eating foods you can't break down. Sometimes it's nutritional supplements. Quite a few years ago, when the big, glutathione boom came out, that, glutathione, it's great for everything. I tried taking glutathione, and I quickly found out that I couldn't take it. Back then, we didn't have these tools. We didn't have the genetic testing, and we didn't have the strategy test that you're looking at right now. So I was just having to go by how do I feel and how do I react, and I found out that I couldn't take glutathione. The reduced down form of that is methionine, and I later found out I couldn't take that, and it reduces down to SAMe, and I have a little bit of problem with SAMe. Sometimes I can take it, but I kind of try to stay clear. But anyway, this is how we can handle it, because we can get this information, see what SNPs you're have anomalies in, what SNPs are mutated, and whether it's single or double mutation, meaning you got it from just your mom, just your dad, or both. And then by using that and the foods list, we can manage your diet and help you cope with it more. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more in another video, but for right now, I just kind of wanted to discuss some of the issues that can happen with GDMF. It can affect your endocrine system, which affects all of your hormones. That affects almost every process in the body. Some of the nutrients that you may not be able to break down, and therefore you're having deficiencies, can cause some serious illnesses, and lots of body processes can depend on certain nutrients. So certainly managing your condition, getting on the right supplements and the right diet can make a lot of difference, because nobody can tell you what diet is going to work for you until you have your pathway planner and you know what genetic SNPs you're dealing with and what foods you can and can't break down. Great example is salads. Salads are supposed to be the health food and those leafy greens, but I myself cannot break down methyls. So if I eat too many salads, I could even go start having seizures. I get to where I can't walk, I can't control my muscle function, I look like I'm drunk. And then if I eat another salad, I end up in, some pretty worse seizures. So I can't eat too many salads, and I love them, so it makes me so sad. But anyway, I do eat some. I just monitor what I do, and I monitor my condition and all of my various symptoms and try to stay in balance as best I can. So for right now, that's all we can do, but we can have hope that the more we learn, the more we'll learn other solutions and ways to maybe get our bodies working, switch these genes on so that they are breaking down those nutrients, and then we'll have the final answer to the problem. But for right now, it stands in management. And so I'm going to put some links down below. I'm going to give you information in upcoming videos further about the testing and about the symptomology, and I'll even be answering questions. So if you have any questions, put those down in the comments below. And again, as always, I so much appreciate you and love you very much. Look forward to the next time that we meet. Stay healthy. Thank you.